WRBI Batesville, Greensburg, Versailles, Brookville now presents Southeastern Indiana's longest running and most listened to sports show. It's Coach's Corner, broadcasting live from the Coach Raver Corner at Ison's Family Pizza. Listen on 103.9 FM or the WRBI app. And now you can watch the show happen live too at WRBI-TV.com or on our Facebook page. Here is the host of Coach's Corner, Coach Rob LaFerry.
And from the friendly confines of the historic Ron Raver Corner at Ison's Family Pizza, we say good evening and welcome to our 2025-2026 season premiere of Coach's Corner, delivered by our friends here at Ison's in downtown Batesville. It's a brand new season, a brand new school year, and tonight we serve up for you our 2025 high school football preview show. Whether you are listening on air, online at WRBIRadio.com, on the WRBI app, or watching on our show courtesy of WRBI-TV. I'm Rob LaFerry, your new host for our brand new season, and certainly those of us in this corner each and every Monday night are excited to have you on board for our weekly check into the local high school sports scene. We are talking high school football tonight. Without further ado, let's bring in guest number one. He is the hometown guy, the head coach of the Batesville Bulldogs, Evan Ulrey. And Coach, it's that time of year again. I know as educators and coaches, you and me both, we love the summer, we love the off season, but getting here at this point in the month of August, it just feels right.
Yeah, it does, and I mean it's busy. It's really busy, and as you know, and it's always, with the start of the school year, and my kids are in school, and I feel like you just don't have enough hours in the day. But also, it's an exciting time, and to finally get back out there on a Friday night, like we said last, Friday to our guys, I was just so excited for them to finally be able to just kind of embrace, a Friday night and get the taste of it, get a little appetizer, because there's no better thing. They're like, you're guaranteed 10 games, and they're like 10 holidays. And so we got one coming up, and we're just excited for our guys for the opportunity, because they're just chomping at the bit to get this season going.
Well, let's rewind to 2024, because certainly it is one worth mentioning for you guys. Now 4 straight winning seasons at Batesville. A couple bumps in the road last year, obviously, but still 9-4. Back-to-back sectional titles in Class 3A, plus that first regional championship since 1986. You fall in the semi-state to Heritage Hills. A historic season for your crew. It's great to have that retrospective, this is what we did, but of course now going in the off-season, the new season, you still want to build on that too.
We do, and I think, that senior class is going to be remembered, as a heck of a group, and obviously we can't thank them enough for all they put in and the accomplishments that they had, both on an individual level, but then obviously the historical season in general as a team. And to do it how they did it, through all the, like you said, bumps in the roads. I mean, you go back to last year, it was one injury after another, and you just felt like you just could not buy a break. I think we were sitting at 5-3 going into the last week of the season after a loss to Franklin County. And it was kind of at a crossroads, and I thought we had great leadership, and we had some guys really step up. We really leaned heavily last year on that sophomore class that is now juniors, and a lot of times things happen for a reason, and there's kind of a silver lining is that we kind of had those bumps. We got better, and we galvanized as a team into November, and now all those guys come back. So yeah, we lost obviously a great senior class, but we also return a lot of guys that have a lot of valuable experience. It's just trying to peg them in the right order, in the right spot, and then you pair that with a very promising sophomore class now that was freshman last year. It's a good group, and then we got some seniors that with a lot of experience. Not a very big senior class, but some guys with some experience. So again, we just continue to challenge our guys every day. Hey, stick with the process, be patient, and again, if last year is any indicator, is like we'll continue to get better every week, and we just want to get ready for October.
Kind of a cool side note this offseason, and I made note of it when it happened because it was something I knew I had planned on asking you. How tough your tournament run was a year ago. The offseason spoke volumes to that, because not only did you have the talent that you had in the sectional with Noah going to Eastern Michigan out of Lawrenceburg, you've got Brady Ballard there at South Dearborn. As you guys marched along, Tri-West, Jack Sorgi, going to go to Louisville here in another year or so. Heritage Hills, you got two guys who committed already to the SEC who are returning this year. So, this was no easy trail for you guys a year ago. You saw some high-quality NCAA Division I athletes on that road.
We have, and I've continued to say this in the time I've been here. Not someone from Southeast Indiana. Granted, I've been living down here for quite some time now, but even talking to people across the state or back home I'm from Northern Indiana, I continue to tell them, like, the Southeast Indiana is it's a hidden pocket. We've, now granted, there's been, you look at East Central, Lawrenceburg, they are producing guys that you are seeing on Saturdays on your TV, not just guys that are playing. And again, no knock on like playing at a smaller school,
right.
But guys that you flip onto a Notre Dame game or you flip on whatever, you're seeing Division I guys, right? And obviously East Central had Mr. Football, a couple of years ago, and so. There's some, the Southeast Indiana, the little pocket, and then obviously, we like you mentioned, we've played Heritage Hills the last 2 years, and they've got some Division I guys, and Tri-West. We knew going in, and everyone talked last year that game. Their starting quarterback's knocked out, and I just kind of like had my eyes like,
there's another one.
Yeah, I don't know. I maybe no knock on the starter. I'm like, I don't know. We might match up better with the starting quarterback, not this Orgy kid, because you could see he had a live arm and he was well beyond his years. So, but yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we've played a lot of high-end guys, and we're going to continue to see that this year.
You've hinted at it already, preparing for this season, a fantastic senior class. And I know there's going to be names that I can't mention because I don't have that entire group from a year ago. But, a Will Geisel, Damian Dance, Cade Kaiser, Krecklers, Gage Pullman, all that group is now gone. Those are huge shoes to fill. It's not an overnight process to go fill those shoes, but I'm sure that your mentality, because of all the winning culture that you've been able to sustain here at Batesville, and you mentioned those younger groups, this is not a rebuilding process just because you guys lost those seniors from a year ago. This is a process to reload here at Batesville.
Yeah, and that's kind of that is the year. Like this is the critical. Last year the motto kind of was like, hey, now you are the target. How are you going to respond being the target? Now, granted, I thought at times we were up and down, right? And we, some bumps in the road, what we mentioned at the beginning of this interview. But those guys responded, and some of those guys that are on our team right now, they were part of that process. This year it is, well, everyone talks about the class of 25 that's graduated, and rightfully so. And now everything's going to go back down. Well, there might be a little here on the beginning part because any part you're trying to get your feet wet and there's a process, but it is a reload. That's got to be the mindset. And these guys, this senior class wants to be that class to kind of be the bridge to just continue to let this go. And the sophomores and juniors are just chomping at the bit. A lot of these guys, whether it's a senior down to the sophomores, we've had a couple freshmen, freshmen kind of rotate a little bit at a time. They want to be – the reason why this continues to go, it's like, this is my time. This is now my opportunity to do that. And when you go on that bus trip to Heritage Hills, when you're playing one game away from Lucas Oil and you've tasted it, you just want to get back to that part. And so you can see what everything we've invested over the last few years and what our guys that have graduated invested. They help set a standard, and help model that standard of what it takes to get to that elite. And we've also been fortunate too, and I say this, we have some teams in our conference that have done that as well. And it's like, not only are we trying to do it, but you can also see what other schools in our area have done. Some great coaches, some great programs in the area that you just continue to try to emulate some of the same things that they're doing. So, like I said, this is a big year for us as a program to show that, hey, it wasn't just as we used to say, a one-hit wonder. It wasn't. Now it's not a two-hit wonder.
It's not a two-hit thing.
It's going to be. This is time to reload and move forward and have a great 25 season.
Talking to Batesville head coach Evan Ulrey here today as part of our high school season preview on Coach's Corner. Defensively, there's some really good bright spots for you coming back. You look at a guy like Sebastian Hall with 47 tackles, Dylan Shane in there with 50 tackles, plenty of experience coming back, and that's going to be a nice little group for you to build off of.
It is. And I think our biggest question was going to be the trenches, but as you mentioned, Bryson Hageman, Dylan Shane, Sebastian Hall, three guys that are going to play more right there in the middle at a linebacker position. Really, really promising. Senior and Aiden Grivey has had a really good offseason and so far start. Ethan Schneider, A lot of experience at corner, really putting a lot of trust in him. He just looks so much better now and more confident and comfortable for us. The biggest question, like I said, is going to come back to the trenches. And, we lost a guy last year, middle of the season, after the East Central game in Lance Weiler, who's now a junior. He would have been a force for us down the stretch last year. A lot of people, we got some guys back. We also lost some guys,
right.
And to have him back, he's going to make a big difference. Camden Kaiser, who obviously was the freshman phenom that played left tackles for us last year, is also going to be playing both sides for us. He's a big dude, and he's going to demand a lot of double teams. So I think that's going to help solidify. It's just developing the depth and developing those guys around that. And I've been really, really, really pleased as we speak defensively with those guys. Trenton Jordan, his seasons have been cut short. He's another senior the last 2 years. He's a both-way guy, receiver, safety. I'm just going to tell you, you're going to say his name a lot. You're going to say his name a lot. You're going to be, where has this guy been? Well, he's been hurt, and if, he would have been a starter. He was a starter for us early last year, but the season just got cut short. He's going to be a big-time player for us. And, and then I've Friday night, I thought it was a really good night for Preston Blessing. He did not start in there, but he came in for a few reps, and I thought he played really, really well, for us. And as we're talking guys to get in the trenches. So, Caden Vogelsang has played linebacker for us, can play up on the edge. He's kind of that hybrid player, long, athletic. We're probably going to say his name a lot. He's going to be a guy that's really helped. So we got some pieces, some young pieces. I really love Max Meyer on the back end at safety. He can play as a linebacker, play as a safety in the coverage. Really like what we are seeing right now defensively and just collectively with the group. Again, sprinkling a lot of sophomores, juniors, and some inexperience. But, again, as I continue to tell myself and our coaches, hey, have patience. Let's continue with the process, and we'll be fine because this group is hungry and eager to do just that.
On offense, there's obviously going to be question marks about the quarterback position. There will be question marks on the wide receiver spot. I think that's where that sophomore junior class will be really beneficial for you. You do have a nice little bright spot in the backfield with Zayden Small coming back to play tailback.
Yeah, he was a lightning last year. Now, his ankle really cut him. It just really hurt him last year. He just never really was able to overcome that. And I think he's put on some size. He's definitely got faster, and he's shifty. And he's one guy that if we can get things taken care of consistently up front, and you can get him in space and you can get him going, he's electric. On Friday, we didn't get many opportunities. East Central up front really, I think, kind of handled us up front pretty well. But I do anticipate Zayden's going to have a big year for us, and really, I think, help the quarterback situation. When you can just hand the ball off to 22, that's a good thing. I'm a big Cowboys fan. I was like handing it off to Emmett Smith right back in the day for Troy Aikman. So kind of what we're hoping. Yep. It's like, hey, get the ball to 22. Trenton Jordan out at receiver. Rylan Yeager, Jackson Elston, who's a promising big target outside for us as well.
You can't miss him out there.
No,
trust
you
me.
can't. And he makes some catches. I'm like, what the heck just happened? I'm speaking of Jackson Elston. So he's got a lot of promise too. And again, the biggest question, again, I just say, is just going to be in the trenches. We're replacing 4 out of 5 starters, but I have a lot of trust in Tim Bellmer, our offensive line coach in OC this year, that they'll get it right, and he's going to coach them up. And that's going to be a group that's going to be solidified as time goes, and he'll get the best out of them. And if that's our biggest question, then I think we'll be in good hands.
I almost even like to mention this guy because I feel like he's been there forever for you guys, but returning special teams, you got a pretty good boot back there with Brady. Yeah, we do. Brady is near automatic, and I say this, going back to the regional game last year, a lot of people forget we had the winning touchdown, but we didn't need a touchdown. We just needed a field goal, and we were on the left. We were in really good position, near automatic. And you go back, and obviously Will throws the ball. We get a touchdown from Damian Dance. But if we don't convert there, we're going to kick the ball and kick the field goal. And I always tell people, I know Brady's going to make it. Brady's near automatic. You're just more worried about the snap and the hold, right? Yep.
You're more worried. If we can get the snap and get the hold, we'll be all right.
I'm a Bengals fan, trust me.
Yeah.
I hold my breath quite often when that happens.
But no, Brady is a weapon, and our hope is, seeing. And I told him, hey, the goal this offseason is you better be putting the ball in the end zone and getting some touchbacks. So the nice thing in high school, the ball gets in the end zone, it's an automatic touchback, and it's a great weapon. So we'll see. Hopefully that's more of a consistency this year. That'd be great that he can drive that ball hopefully into the end zone and take some stress off the kickoff, because that's a big win for us. But no, Brady, he's been kicking for us, and he's already the all-time scoring and kicking leader, in all time, and he's going to crush that and set the bar pretty high when it's all said and done.
Got a chance to scrimmage East Central this past Friday, a really warm Friday night for high school football scrimmages. The weather looks much better for this Friday night, plus you guys are going to be at home taking on Triton Central, a non-conference opponent for you guys that you've added to that schedule, and they're a formidable foe down in Class 2A. It's a good challenge for you guys on week 1.
It is, and last year was a really good game. We've had a history with Triton Central. They used to be our week 0 scrimmage before we went into this conference ordeal. We used to scrimmage them also sometimes in the summer. So I've got to know some of their coaches, and then obviously Tim Abel, who's a Hall of Fame coach, and has done a really great job. It is a great program, and when we had the opportunity to add this was like a no-brainer. As like tell Mr. Helvey, I said this like last year, hey, we got to get them on, because this is going to be a great week 1 game. Like, I want games that bring excitement and bring people in. You see it as a business, but also to make us better. It's kind of like last week. I wanted to scrimmage East Central just because I wanted to get a pretty good sense of, like, where are we at? Because they're the best team in the conference, and arguably, 5A state, championship favorites. So if we can somewhat compete and do some things well with them, then I think we'll be okay. And it's the same thing here with Triton Central. You're not going to get a false you're going to get a pretty good feel of like where you're at. Like, if we could go in and win this game and get to 1-0, then you got to feel good. Then you got to turn right back around and play a really good Milan team. But that's the thing. It's like those are our 2 non-conference games. Rob, it's like Triton Central is really good 2A, and Milan, that's like that's a big time rivalry game. So I always like the beginning of the year and non-conference, and it's nice to have that, and I'll be excited for the game and the challenge in front of us.
Back-to-back home games against Triton Central this Friday, Milan next Friday, and then after that, of course, you got the EIAC with Lawrenceburg and East Central, of course, plus South Dearborn, Franklin County, and all the familiar foes for you guys. And, Coach, we will be there supporting you guys all the way through. Thanks for joining us here on week number 1 of Coach's Corner, and we will talk to you Friday night against Triton Central.
All right. Thank you much, and, hey, great job. First time, it was good. So, again, we'll be out there Friday. Go Dogs.
Batesville head coach Evan Ulrey joining us on Coach's Corner, and we'll return with more Coach's Corner coming up after the timeout. East Central head coach Jake Miners joining us here on Country 103.9 WRBI.
Simmer and sear with confidence using a Maytag freestanding electric range with 5 elements, including a 9-inch and 6-inch dual choice element, variable broil, and warming center. You can knock out mealtime in no time. The steam clean cycle and fingerprint resistant stainless steel finish makes it easy to keep clean inside and out. Shop Garings today. Garings in Maytag, 316 North Main, Batesville.
It's back. Our delicious chicken bruschetta pizza is back. Cecil here. I'm interrupting this commercial for some important news. Our operating hours are changing to better serve our customers and to better take care of our team members. We will be closing at 8 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. That's right, our new hours are Sunday through Thursday from 10:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., then Friday and Saturday 10:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. Come let us serve you. LicensedFamilyPizza.com, 812-933-0333, or 117 East George Street, downtown Batesville.
Back to more Coach's Corner with Rob LaFerry, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza on 103.9 FM. Streaming audio on the WRBI app and with video on our Facebook page and at WRBI-TV.com.
And we're back inside the Raver Corner at Ison's Family Pizza in downtown Batesville as a part of our season premiere of Coach's Corner. Our high school football preview show rolls right along. Rob LaFerry now joined by East Central head coach Jake Miners, entering his 7th season at the helm of the Trojans, 65-13 the last 5 years for East Central. quite the resume. 2 state titles, 2 semi-state championships, 2 regionals, 4 sectional championships. And, Coach, welcome back for another season. And sectional champions a year ago, first year inside in Class 5A after making that jump up after the back-to-back state titles. And here you guys are reloaded and ready to go for 2025.
Yeah, we're extremely excited to get this season kicked off. I think that last year was a huge learning experience for us. We came off of 2023 back-to-back state championships, an extremely experienced, good class for us that graduated in 2023. So not only were we moving up into 5A last year, but we were also bringing in a lot of new faces, into the varsity lineup. And for us to go out and win a sectional in 5A in our first year was a huge accomplishment for our program. First time we were competing up in 5A in school history, and our guys did a really good job of attacking the tournament. But we did learn a lot. In 4A, we had never experienced a bye week in the playoffs, and all of a sudden here we are sitting week 1 of the playoffs, and everybody else is playing but us in the local community. So, but we were able to go out and accomplish the goal of winning a sectional championship. Came close in the regional final against a really, really good Decatur Central team that went on to win it in 5A. Just a really good season for us. Every loss that we experienced was in a really tight game. And so what we've really tried to do moving forward into this year is, first of all, we're comfortable now in 5A. We know the programs that we're going to be competing against in the playoffs, but just kind of how to approach the season, right? And, have some experienced players coming back who hopefully we can turn that page and, a few of those close games, hopefully it will go our way this year.
You kind of mentioned now being a little bit more prepared for this 2025 season. You go back to 2023, you guys go 15-0, you win that state championship. I mean, that bar doesn't get any higher right there. You still come in with championship aspirations last season, but you're right. It's an adjustment period, bumping up a class. You mentioned the bye, new sectional opponents, a new regional opponent. All that is in there. But now I feel like you've got a chance this offseason to go back and watch those games, prepare even more, and then build, okay, how do we now go about preparing for this the right way? We've got our taste, and I think, you look at your schedule, you've added a Lawrence North team in there who's a 6A opponent here in a couple weeks. So, I mean, you're building to build yourself right back up as a state title contender in Class 5A in year number 2.
Yeah, and that's, what we preach is, every week we got to improve. And every week is the most important game. But, in the first 5 weeks, we played teams that had 9 wins last season. So a lot of really quality opponents here right out of the gate, and our guys are going to have to be ready to go for them. But you're right. We walked off the field last year at Decatur Central, got back to the coach's office, kind of digesting the season, kind of reflecting a little bit. And there was 2 things that really stuck out about 5A football. First of all is that we have to develop depth. And I know at the 4A level, there's a certain amount of depth that you need to have to really make a run in the state tournament. But in 5A, you really got to have depth, because these 5A schools that are bringing in their 2s and 3s that are just as good as their 1s and are big. So we really committed ourselves to building the depth with everybody in our program. We have 121 players, and we're trying to really prepare them, each and every one of them, to be able to individually play their position on a Friday night. And then the second thing is we had to get stronger. We've had a really, really good weight room program, historically at East Central, but we really had to take that up to the next notch, because the 5A programs that we were facing, just bigger and larger athletes. And so we've had a really, really good offseason. We feel really good about where our team's at heading into this year. And just the comfort level of, like you had said, of what schools you're playing against, where you traveled on the road and things like that. So we experienced some even this summer. We went against Columbus North, which is a 6A program, really quality 6A program. Martinsville, that's a former 4A foe. That's Coach Duggar has going really, really well. And then we traveled up to New Pal and played New Pal and Avon up there. So just some really quality opponents that we're trying to get our guys in front of, and hopefully that's preparing us for the season moving forward.
Again, talking with East Central head coach Jake Miners, 8-4 last season, coming into this year ranked 5th in the Class 5A preseason poll. There are some missing folk from a year ago. I know Carson Pizanko last year, who was a piece, and I know he had dealt with some injuries throughout last year. Defensively, a guy like Cole Sebastian is not back. Alex Kuhn is not back because of graduation. But there are a lot of returning pieces, and then you had mentioned the depth portion. All those returning pieces plus some new guys, that allows that build-up process to be easier.
Sure, and that's really, graduation's always, you always want to win going out for that senior class. But we, even diving it back into last year, a lot of guys that played JV football for us last year, but that are going to be asked a lot of this year at the varsity level. But that's just how high school sport goes. New faces every single year that need to fill spots. But we feel really good about the guys that we brought back. We only returned 4 starters per se on defense. 2 in the secondary, 1 at linebacker and 1 at the defensive line position. But a lot of guys who played a lot of varsity football for us last year. So while they might not have been mentioned as a starter, they are coming back for us. Then offensively, we get healthy at the offensive line. Going to get in the regional final last year, we were down our left tackle, Gavin Osterman, who's back with us. And then we played the entire season without our left guard, Noah Brown, who got hurt in our team scrimmage last year. Well, he was a starter for us in the state championship team as a freshman. So him coming back for his junior campaign is a huge deal for us up front. And a few guys were kind of forced into action last year because of injuries, and we're able to bring those guys back. So and then our offensive skill positions we feel really good about. We bring back Ryan Mingus, our special running back. He's kind of that next guy in line for us. At East Central, we like to have really good running backs.
Yep.
And he's kind of that guy for us right now. Had a really, really good sophomore year, but we're expecting huge things out of him this year as a junior. And that's kind of the path that Josh took for us last time. Is Josh kind of got his feet wet, had a really good sophomore year, then came back and had an explosive junior year. So then, out on the edge, we bring back 4 wide receivers that are all going to be seniors for us. Then our quarterback, Nolan Maple. So really experienced group, but it's fun because we're able to kind of extend them, from scouting report types of things. And really, their football IQ is extremely high.
Talk about Ryan Mingus, 1,517 rushing yards last year, 25 touchdowns, not too shabby of a 2024. And, following along in those footsteps of Josh Ringer, who, of course, was Indiana Mr. Football a couple of years ago. Big weapon, but if you don't have that strength up front, plays for them don't happen.
Oh, without a doubt. And those 2022 and 2023 campaigns, at least offensively speaking, were built around the offensive line, and that's exactly how football is played. With us experiencing some injuries and things up front, and I'm not making excuses for anything from last year, but Ryan Mingus was able to post those big numbers. And that's a credit to our offensive line depth and how Coach Medlock our offensive line coach goes about building the depth within his group that guys were able to plug in guys and play. But moving forward into this year, Ryan's stats were really good for us last year. But I think the biggest thing is we've never asked Ryan to be Josh. Ryan is an extremely talented football player in his own right, and he's going to turn heads in his own right. And so we just asked him to go out and do his thing. But now coming out off of last year as a sophomore, more mature now as a junior, really understanding some of his reads. One thing he has vastly improved upon is his pass protection. So just some of those little things from the running back position, he's done a really, really good job of this summer. So I'm excited to see what this year brings for him.
Identity is big. It doesn't matter the sport, football, basketball, volleyball, whatever the sport may be. Identity is big. I always enjoy following East Central. You've guys that went on these state championship runs, even going back to that first one a few years ago with the win against Lowell, and then the back-to-back. There's always these comparisons being made. Oh, this team couldn't beat the 94 team. How would this team stack up? But each team is unique in their identity and what they do on the field. And with this 2025 team, with these expectations, they can't be going out and comparing themselves to one single player or one single team from the past. They've got to go out there and they've got to do their own thing.
Yeah, and I think because we've been on, fortunately, several runs here. In 2015 we went to the state championship for the first time since 1994. So the first time since really these kids were alive, and so we learned a lot. We lost in the state championship, learned a lot. We were able to come back in 2017 and finally get over the hump. But these guys were kind of in the pee-wee, dreaming about those. Being in that state championship one day. Then, and you're right. Then the 2022 team was a totally different team than what that 2023 team. Both super successful, but then coming back last year was just a different team than as opposed to this year. But there's some hallmarks of our program, though. When guys step onto the field for us, they know what our identity is going to be. We're going to play stout defense. We're going to be great tacklers. We harp on that stuff consistently. And then we have to be effective in the run game. It's no secret that we like to run the football. We've had some special backs along the way, but then I think what people lose sight of too is our passing game is really efficient and effective. To be able to keep teams from being able to stack the box on us. So, but these guys start in the youth level, and I go over and watch our youth guys and the way they practice and things like that. And so there's just a certain model that they do really replicate themselves, but each personality of each team's different. And that 2023 team, quite honestly, I loved them. I hated the way that they practiced. They were just loosey, all get out joking around a lot. But when it came game time, they were locked in, and for somehow, some way, they heard everything you said throughout the week, even though they didn't act like it, which just my personality, I was stressed every single week. Last year, our team was super, super detailed, practiced extremely well. We were a little bit inexperienced on our Friday nights, and so things would happen throughout the game. So this group, I would say the plus side of us losing in a regional final last year, the plus side for this group all off season so far has been the hunger that is within them to finally get to the season to show what they can do, and the hunger to try to put our program back on a state level this year. But we've talked a lot about how do you do that, and you do that by taking each week as the most important week. You don't look ahead. Lawrenceburg is the first game on our schedule, and everything has to go towards Lawrenceburg. And then you turn the page, and then we'd go into Harrison for us, and then just you try to stack good weeks on top of each other and try to keep improving. So that way you're putting your best foot forward every Friday night, and hopefully that you're peaking at the right time in the playoffs.
I was going to say, you guys would love to look forward to a first ever meeting in the regular season with Lawrence North on September 5th, but the Friday night before, you got Harrison. You love that rivalry matchup, the I-74 battle. Well, you got to focus on Lawrenceburg this Friday night, so it's detail-oriented each and every week. But that's your first 3 weeks out of the gate, and obviously the EIA slate comes up after that. In addition to the Lawrenceburg game, there's nothing easy for the Trojans.
No, and we know we're going to get everybody's best shot. Because of our recent success and all that sort of stuff, and just historically because of our program's success, we know we're going to get everybody's best shot. So we have to mentally be prepared. We have to physically be prepared for that. And, it doesn't start out easy at all. We go down to Lawrenceburg, which is a really tough place to play down the pit, one of the cooler environments, across the state to go play in. We kind of we go in their locker room to get changed, but really where we meet at as a team's kind of right in the middle of their parent parking section called the Jungle, and so it right out of the gate it's going to hoop and holler. Then we play a Harrison team that got us late last year. That's a huge rivalry within our community, and they got us by a score last year late. Which has been festering with us for quite some time. And then we go up, and it doesn't get any easier after that with Lawrence North. We're really excited about that game. We know that they're a 6A state title contender, highly ranked in 6A. That replaces Moeller for us this year on our schedule, but we also have to go up there and play. So it's going to be really fun to take our guys on the road to see what we're made of. But we're going to have to get better in the first 2 weeks if we're going to have a shot of going up there and beating them. But that's the way that we try to play. And then we get into our conference slate, and it doesn't get any easier from there. So we really try to challenge ourselves throughout the regular season when we get an opportunity. I heard from somebody last week that in the first 5 games, each of those teams won at least 9 games last year. So that's a huge challenge that's in front of us. But we're dealing with high school kids and high school students and athletes, and so we really try to narrow the focus for them, not let the picture get too big. Really just try to hone in on scouting reports and what they're going to see in front of them. and just go out and try to execute each rep. And if we had a bad rep, you got to stay in the fight. You got to play the next rep. You got to wash the last one, and you got to go play. And that's we feel like that if we take care of our process, then the result will take care of itself. And that's really what we preach and we harp on, within the confines of our program. And so we hope that mindset will lead us to success.
All right, Coach, we'll go ahead and let you go for tonight. Rob Moorhead and company will be down at the pit with you on Friday for that opener against Lawrenceburg. Thanks for making the visit tonight. We'll talk later on this fall.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on.
East Central head coach Jake Miners joining us when we come back from the timeout. Milan head coach Ryan Langford will step into the Raver Corner as a part of Coach's Corner, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza on Country 103.9 WRBI.
When it comes to you and your family's health, finding a primary care provider you can trust makes all the difference. At Margaret Mary Health, our providers aren't just here for you when you're sick. They're dedicated to being your long-term partners in health. If you're looking for a medical provider to help keep your family well, give us a call or visit us online. Our primary care providers are accepting new patients in Batesville, Brookville, Osgood, and Milan. Margaret Mary Health. Generations of care.
It's back. Our delicious chicken bruschetta pizza is back. Cecil Ison from Ison's Family Pizza in downtown Batesville. The savory pizza with white garlic sauce, seasoned chicken, mozzarella provolone cheese, tomatoes, and fresh basil, all on our fresh in-house made dough. Come try this or any of Batesville's best pizza at 117 East George Street, IsonsFamilyPizza.com, 812-933-0333. Ison's Family Pizza's famous chicken bruschetta pizza is back.
Coach's Corner with Rob LaFerry continues. Watch us live on WRBI-TV.com or on our Facebook page. And hear us live on the WRBI app and 103.9 FM. WRBI.
We're on air. You can find us on camera at WRBI-TV, and we are all over the place inside the fall of 2025. We welcome you back to Coach's Corner, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza here inside the Ron Raver Corner. Our show rolls right along, and now joined by a guy who is now in his 18th season overall, 2 stints inside the Milan High School football program, and that is head coach Ryan Langford. And Coach, building back up to a championship team a year ago, you guys finished 8-5. Finally, kind of got that monkey off your back a little bit with the title against North Decatur. Coach Steve Stern will be joining us here in just a little bit. You fall to eventual state champs Providence in the regional, but had to feel good to once again hoist that trophy in Milan.
Yeah, it was a fun season. Every season, I think you mentioned earlier with Coach Miners, has its kind of own identity and is a different group of kids. And, last year there were times that we played pretty well, and there were times we didn't look good at all. I think we ended the regular season at 5-4, but we had a group of seniors that just didn't give up. And going back, they were some. The Milan folks have heard this before, but 2 wins in 5th grade, 2 wins in 6th grade, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mm-hmm. All those years they won 2 games a year. And some coaches would gave up on them, or this team's just not going to do it, or whatever. But I think that built some character in them. I think that built some toughness in them. And so it was hard to phase that group of seniors. They just kept fighting. And we made some adjustments throughout the season and just tried to keep getting better each week. And hopefully put our best team forward when the sectional hit. And fortunately, we were able to do that.
I know last year, looking especially kind of early on in the season, some ball games where maybe the expectation was you guys were going to come out a winner. Obviously, maybe things don't turn out that way, but as the season went along, the steam continued to build, and you mentioned that grit from your group. It seemed like last year you could never count out your ball club. It didn't matter what the score was out on the board. The senior class for you a year ago is huge. You had an all-state receiver tied in Dylan. Austin Green is huge, but other guys, Carson Betts, John McEwen, Cameron Gibb, these are kids of high character and really good football players that you'll miss in 2025.
Yeah, and it's been fun. A lot of them have, before they headed off to college, they've been helping us this summer, and they've been helping with the high school some. They've been helping with the middle school team some. John McEwen's out there coaching every day. He's getting ready to head off to school. Landon Stanley's been around helping. Ethan Pierce was helping. So it's pretty cool to see these players that care enough about the program to come back, help out the next group of players, the next team, and try to make them be successful. And you're right. They're a great group of kids, and they're going to be missed. And this is the time of year, you kind of like, how are we going to replace that kid? And then the summer happens, and you see some kids step up. You see some kids have some great off seasons, and they start filling those voids. And you're like, we're going to be okay. 18 years of doing this, and it seems like any time you've wondered if a kid can get the job done, they've stepped up and been able to do it and perform, no matter what the situation. And that's enjoyable to see as a coach. And, it's been fun watching this team grow over the summer as well.
In the offseason, I think you guys have had some eyeballs on you, whether it's publications or going on social media and reading from all the different state experts, and I'll put that in some air quotation marks. But, there is plenty of expectations for this 2025 group, and coming into the preseason, ranked 7th in Class A, coming off that sectional championship from a year ago. And as much as you do miss those graduating seniors of 2024, there is a lot back for you, and I know there's plenty of people excited about that quarterback you got back in Wyatt Marsh.
Yeah, we're excited about the team returning. Wyatt Marsh, as a sophomore, was just trying not to mess up, and he did a great job. And I think he threw for 700 yards, and here he comes in as a junior. We're not really sure what to expect. We run the wing tee, not known for their passing, and he starts letting her loose, and we knew he could throw the ball pretty well, but I never dreamed he'd have a season where he threw for almost 2,000 yards. And so he decided, he grew as a player and decided to become a playmaker. And, he's throwing the ball well. He's put in a lot of work. He's the kid that every coach loves to coach. Yes, coach, what do I need to do? Watching film, willing to come in before school and meet. He's just a great kid and cares about his teammates, cares about the team, and he's put in the work to, that he's wanting to have a successful season, and he's put in the work to do that.
1,976 passing yards for Wyatt last year, 19 touchdowns, and there were some box scores last year where the year prior in 2023 compared to 2024, some of those box scores that Brad Voss used to send me on Sundays last year, the eyes did pop a little bit when those numbers started coming up for Wyatt, but now that's a consistent thing. Plus, he's got a couple targets, one obviously bearing the same last name as you in Grant Langferman, but also Micah Norman's always still a really good target for you guys too.
Yeah, those two coming back. Caden Davidson is a name I think you're going to hear quite a bit. He's had a great offseason. He's playing receiver for us. And then you mentioned the senior John McEwen, who was able to carry the ball for us but also go out and catch some balls. And, one of those kids, how are we going to replace him? Brady Alcorn's had a great offseason, and he's got a good set of hands, and so we're kind of using him in that mixed position to do both for us. And so I think Wyatt's going to have some targets. It remains to be seen, but those kids have put in a lot of hard work. And, thankfully we got a few key pieces of the line coming back as well to help with that. Zane Richardson and Lucas Hensley started every game for us last year. And then J.J. Mutz started the first part of the season for us at guard. So in my mind, we kind of have 3 returning starters on the line. Add Grant as a tight end. We got 4 guys back, and we got some options at tackle. Landon Stanley left some big shoes to fill at tackle. But one of those kids, Levi Pierce, who was hurt last year as a freshman, he didn't get to play at all. And I think if he would have been healthy, he would have got some playing time as a freshman. Him coming back, being healthy, and the offseason he's had, he's been a nice piece to add to that offense and defensive lines.
Defensively, one of the big goals for you guys this year is to limit scoring against the opposing team. You do have some big pieces back defensively. When you've got J.J. back there again, Zane Richardson's a guy who had 4 sacks last year. Micah Norman, 5 INTs. Grant Langford, 97 tackles, 3.5 sacks. Brady Alcorn, 41 tackles. Plenty of returning experience, and just kind of like what I talked about with Coach Ulrich at the beginning of the show, that's a big group that you can build on to go along with your offense.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of the same names. Lucas Hensley's another kid that's had a great offseason. He's going to be a force for us on the defensive line. Brady Alcorn stepping in and filling the shoes that Austin Green left at outside linebacker. I feel like this is maybe one of the deepest teams I've coached. There's a lot of talent there, but I don't think it's ready yet. And so I'm predicting, however many 2 starters we have to start the season, I think it'll be less as the season progresses, as some of these kids get the experience they need to jump in there. But it's been a fun group with these young kids, freshmen and sophomores. There's a lot of talent in that class, and it's been fun coaching them as well.
One of my favorite all-time broadcast calls, I don't know if you remember this one or not, was all the way back in your first tenure. And then when I saw that you guys scrimmaged Triton Central on Friday night, it brought me right back to that MIFC conference championship call that I had all the way back probably 15, 16 years ago, right around that time. But you guys got a chance to scrimmage Triton Central last week on the road. Talk about how that goes for the Indians.
We weren't pleased when it was over. Let's just put it that way. We felt like we did not perform to our best. Now, we had some kids injured and not playing in that game, and that fed into some of that. But, Coach Combs always used to say the film's not as good as you think it is, it's not as bad as you think it is. And so, there's a lot to learn. We got a lot to grow from for that experience. But, I think it was one of those, maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed. There were some few mistakes here and there, but we had some kids not playing in the positions they're used to that kind of had to fill in. But, I think Triton Central is going to be a good team. They're going to be a force to reckon with. They've got a heck of a schedule this season. That's going to be a tough road for Coach Abel, but he's a great coach. Some kids really stuck out. Hayden Poole played great. Jaden Disbro played great. Gavin Trinkamp had a great game. And so those are some of those young names that that when I talk about that depth, and I don't know if they're quite ready yet, that might fill in before the season's over. Colton Harris had a great game. And so, some kids stuck out and showed what some of their hard work's done and paid off. And so that's why we like to do that. And at the end of the night, it's not a win or a loss, so it's a good chance to get a competition against other jerseys and see what players are capable of, and we had some players take advantage of that.
I know here in a little bit I'll talk with Coach Stern about this. I've already talked with Coach Martin about this at South Decatur, but the big headline for Milan, North Decatur, and South Decatur this year, the return of the Mid-Indiana Football Conference. It's got a bit of a new look this year. A couple schools from the past conference are out. A couple new ones are in, but this is going to allow you guys to go back and now compete for a conference championship inside the regular season.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to that. Not only does it give you some guaranteed games from year to year, kind of gives you a chance to build some rivalries, it gives some meaningful games during the season, and so those are all positives of that. I'm sure one of the new teams you mentioned, Brown County, when the MIFC formed, I think in '83, Brown County was actually part of that, and they weren't a part of it long, and not while I played anyway, and so it's nice to have them back in it, and we were glad that we were able to get the conference back together, hope to add a couple more teams over the years. And watch that conference grow. But we're looking forward to being back in a conference and having some meaningful regular season games.
Some other additions, Switzerland County and Edinburgh, I do believe, to the MIFC. Coach, talk about the first couple weekends out of the gate. This Friday night, a home game for the Indians. You guys will take on Rushville. The week after, you're on the road for the Ripley County Bell game against Batesville. Two really good 3A tests for you right off the bat.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough start to our season. It's always tough when your first opponent has a new coach because you don't know exactly what they're going to do. So we have some scrimmage film, but, I'm sure they got a few surprises up their sleeves. So we're trying to be prepared for everything. But Coach Zimmerman's been around a while. He knows what he's doing. And, it's going to be a good test for us. I'm glad it's a home game for us. We're focusing on the Indians. And I think that's one of the mantras that got us through last season. We were just focused on us from week to week, be 1-0, improve every week. And so after the scrimmage, that's been our focus. What do we need to do better that we didn't do against Triton Central and be in the best place to have success this Friday against Rushville?
As coaches come through this season for the show, and I'll talk with several about this, but I wanted to give this question to you specifically tonight because as you build the roster, as you build your program, and you build up depth with all these high schools around southeastern Indiana, youth programs are becoming so huge, and you guys run a phenomenal youth program at Batesville. You had your black and gold night a couple weeks ago. You've done some really cool off-season things with their youth, and you're getting a really big turnout from a lot of young people in Ripley County.
Yeah, I was very excited to say that we had 162 kids sign up for youth football this year, which was a pretty big deal. They had their opening weekend this past weekend. I think kindergarten, first, second, and fifth grades all won. So it was a good opening weekend for us. But, you know what? The we do a K-12 picture every year on our Black Gold Night, and it's one of my favorite events of the year to see all of our future Indians and all of the coaches that make this happen and make that program happen in that picture. And this year was no different. It's an exciting night. It's exciting to see the future. Players like going back to that picture and seeing what they looked like 4 or 5 years ago. And so I'm proud of our program. I'm proud of our coaches that make it happen and all the people that are part of it that make it happen. And a lot of credit to them to get those youth numbers up and have those kids that want to keep coming out and playing football.
Definitely takes a tribe to keep things rolling at Milan. Coach, good to see you again. Good chance to talk to you once again as well. Best of luck this Friday night against Rushville, and we will see you at Batesville on August 29th.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
Milan head coach Ryan Lankfman joining us inside Coach's Corner, and North Decatur coach Steve Stern set to join us after the timeout. Coach's Corner delivered by Ison's Family Pizza on Country 103.9 WRBI.
You only have one smile. Make yours the best it can be with Batesville Dental. For over 40 years, Batesville Dental's provided the latest technology in their state-of-the-art facility. They strive to make your visit a pleasure. Doctors Broughton, Liedermeyer, and Roberts and their staff offer preventative care, Invisalign, implants, extractions, and cleanings to keep your mouth healthy and your smile beautiful. Batesville Dental, 391 Northside Drive, Batesville. You only have one smile. Make yours the best it can be. Batesville Dental.
It's back. Our delicious chicken bruschetta pizza is back. Cecil here. I'm interrupting this commercial for some important news. Our operating hours are changing to better serve our customers and to better take care of our team members. We will be closing at 8 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. That's right, our new hours are Sunday through Thursday from 10:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., then Friday and Saturday, 10:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. Come let us serve you. IsonsFamilyPizza.com, 812-933-0333, or 117 East George Street, downtown Batesville.
This is Coach's Corner with Rob LaFerry, brought to you by Ison's Family Pizza. Catch every moment on 103.9 FM, streaming on the WRBI app with video on our Facebook page and WRBI-TV.com.
Coach's Corner just continues to roll right through the 7 o'clock hour on Country 103.9 WRBI. And again, a big thank you to those listening on air, online at WRBIRadio.com, the WRBI app, plus WRBI Radio with our new TV stream that you can watch Coach's Corner here every Monday night from Ison's Family Pizza. North Decatur head coach Steve Stern joining us now as a part of our high school football season preview. 11th year already at North Decatur, coach, 84-36 the last 6 seasons, 4 sectionals, a regional championship to go along with it. And I know for you, with what you've got coming back, and we'll talk about that here in a sec, but there's no shying away from those championship expectations in Decatur County.
No, I can say that the expectations are high, and that's much more of a good thing than a bad thing. You know, when I got there, I've told the story, and it seemed harder to believe each year, but there was conversations being had about, you know, what is the viability of the football program moving forward. Numbers were down, success was low. We've come a long way, and it was because of a lot of people, but now we're to the point, those are the expectations. Winning a sectional, it's almost, if you don't, it was a disappointing year. You underachieved, and I don't know if that's fair to each team. You know, I've been around. When I started at Roncalli, it was win state championship. Well, that's not fair to those kids,
right?
You know, there's only a few that are going to get to do that.
Yep.
That yes, I think to the casual fan, those are the very tangible things that you can count. But I think the people in the trenches, the coaches, the kids, there's a lot of successes that can be taken out of a football season beyond those trophies. Now, we love them, and we want another one, but, you know, you're right. The expectations are high.
Talk about last season, because, you know, that's a perfect example of disappointing because you don't win that sectional championship, but in retrospect, 10-2 on the year does look pretty good. You do get to that sectional championship game. You fall by a touchdown to Milan. Your kids did a lot of really good things last year, building off that sectional championship from the year before that.
Yeah, you go to that team before that, following 22. That senior class was told, well, those guys were not going to be replaceable, and they went and found a way to win a sectional. Were in the game, could have potentially won the regional, but didn't. So then when they handed off, This team a year ago thought, well, we're going to do the same thing. And that's the slippery slope that you play on, that you kind of forget how you got here. And I remind our kids all the time that literally they're standing on the backs of those who came before you. And the expectations are where they are because of what they've done for you. But you, when they hand you the torch, you have an obligation to uphold that. And there's a lot of pride in that, and there's a lot of expectation. So we were probably, if you could be too disappointed after a loss, we may have been. I mean, it shook the walls a little bit because we thought we had it. We thought we could do it. And Milan was a good football team. And I told our kids early in the year last year that we were just good enough that we had the ability to beat ourselves. And we had turnovers in that game. And, again, they were all forced. It wasn't like, Milan had nothing to do with it. But that was disappointing. And then I told them at the end of the year when we got back, I said, the season's over. We have our banquet. There was only 31 teams in the state of Indiana that won double-digit games, and you all were one of them. So let's just put this in perspective. You tip your hat to your opponent because they certainly earned it, but there is a new level of hunger, if you will. Things with a lot more purpose, weight room with a lot more purpose, because it's fresh in our minds again what that feels like, and you cannot take that for granted.
2024 graduates, guys who are passing the torch to this crew coming in this fall. Guys like Mason Morris, who was a really solid quarterback for you guys last year, throws for 13 touchdowns. Owen Eldridge, Colton Thackeray, Nolan Burkhart, a real good core of senior guys, but they are passing that torch to a really good returning crew.
They are, and there's a little bit of a gap age-wise. Our current senior class, Corbin Thackeray's probably the biggest highlight of a name that people are going to recognize. He's got statistics from last year, but there's a lot of blue-collar guys in this class. I think of Connor Larson. I think of Tyler Dean, and I can go down the list. Trenton Larson. Guys who might be under the radar because you don't see their names a bunch, but they're in the trenches working. And that's a little bit of this personality of this team is they've got that bring their lunch pail to work every day, blue-collar, roll their sleeves up, go to work. And the really good news is there's some young kids coming that could potentially be as talented as anybody we've had. They're just young. And with the age comes maybe inconsistency. But, man, is their upside high. It is a good time to be a Charger, similar to what Ryan said from a sense that, it's reinvigorating to coach the young guys because they're wide-eyed and they hang on every word, and they want you to tell them what they have to do to be successful because they're the younger brother or they're the cousin of guys who've been a part of this run, and now they want to take it and run with it. So it's a good mix.
Couple things to make note of. First off, you had brought up, bringing that lunch pail with them to practice every day. Simon Barber's a guy that you look at his stats from a year ago. They're not going to be real flashy. 536 and 6 TDs is not going to be that eye popper like what Corbin is at 1,184. But he's a lunch pail guy. Yeah. You also mentioned Big brother played, big cousin played. Yes. I look at the last name Parmer on that roster, and there's a guy who wants to be like all the other Parmers at North Decatur, and that is something special about North Decatur and about small school football. Yes. You're going to have those kids.
Yes, absolutely. And their grandmother was my fifth grade teacher at Batesville. And so every home game or every game I can see her after, and it makes me young again. So that's always a bonus. There are so many ties and so many connections to families. That is what makes it. I've told young coaches, go find a community where you can put your roots down, raise your family, and become interwoven with all that, because that's what makes it awesome. And when you do have success, it's all much better because you see the joy that it causes for them. And once you taste that, you want to do it again. I know there's a lot of people in the world that certainly hope this is the last Parmer for a while. He's the last one on the horizon, but the bad news is only a sophomore. It seems like he's already been around. Simon the same way. Simon's only a sophomore, but, man, it seems like he's been playing for a long time.
Yeah, the last Parmer I got a chance to coach basketball against 2 years ago in 8th grade, and had no idea until that night he was related to the Kaiser clan. So we were all putting things together, and it felt like some just farmhouse brawl going out on the basketball court. So I imagine you see that as well at your practices. Defensively for you guys, total team effort. I mean, you got coming back 4 guys with 20-plus tackles. You throw Charlie and Carter out there, Carter Gray, 5 combined sacks. This is going to be a pretty physical defense you're bringing to North Decatur.
I think it is, and I think it's every year you've got to step back as a coach and look at your ingredients and make sure you got the right kid in the right seat, where we talk about it a lot, and I think there are sacrifices that people make for the betterment of the team. If any of our players were at a different school that's close, they may play a different position. But because of this collection of people, this is what we need you to do. And our guys do a great job of saying, whatever you need, wherever I just want to play. And that makes us better. But you look at this group and the physical talents of the young guys coming, we're going to shuffle the pieces a little bit. Offensive line, defensive line, super important. And we found out the hard way. I think I go back to West Washington, as we started this journey in the regionals, they would bring guys in waves on the defensive line. And even we couldn't stand up to it. They were too fresh. So that was kind of our lesson that, hey, we need to do that. And Charlie's dad, Tad Palmer, and Dan Kinker coach our defensive line. And really they do a great job of giving guys opportunities. It's you're in for 2, you're out for 3, you're in for 1. And they do a really good job. And what that does in a locker room makes the locker room better. The buy-in's higher. We all feel like we're a part of it because they are. I tell people, the young parents, football's a unique sport. There's a place for everybody. Basketball, if you can't dribble and shoot, your basketball career
I can relate.
is going to end,
yeah.
Right? But in football, there's a place for you. If you come to work and you work at it, you will naturally gravitate and find a spot. And that makes football awesome.
I like to talk about kickers. And so when I was going back through stats last night, Logan Odell does eye pop for me as a kicker. He had over 3,700 kickoff yards last year, 34 PATs that were successful. In high school football, if you got yourself a good kicker, that is a hidden gem in your back pocket.
There's no question. And he's just scratching the surface. He is so raw. He's one of those kids that, unless you've been around it for a while, maybe you wouldn't know it. Man, you know it when they hit it. You know when a kicker hits the ball. Now, you've got some kids out here go, I can kick. I kicked in youth football, whatever. It sounds like a pillow fight. But when a good kicker hits the ball, you hear it. He's got that in him. When I say he's raw, he practices. But he was a soccer guy growing up. His brother, Aiden, was a really good kicker for us. And you thought, he graduated. Let's go talk to his little brother. And we talked him out, and the family was very supportive. I don't know that we all know how good he can be. I can watch him in practice, pretty consistent at 35 to 40. I mean, that's good at any level, right? And that translates. So our mindset changes. If you're going to be good and you're going to go in the tournament, you're going to play close games. So your attitude changes, your approach to those drives. Now, you can't trade field goals for touchdowns, but maybe the pressure's off of you a little bit. You don't have to cross that last line. If you just get to the 20, 25, we're in the hunt, let's take a shot. He is a great weapon, but honestly, all the points are nice. It's his kickoffs. If he could put half of them in the end zone, that's 80 yards. And in high school, they're teenage kids. There's a lot of things can go wrong over the course of 80 yards. Let's be patient defensively. Man, that's a lot of pressure. I think on a high school offense to have to travel 80 yards consistently. So that's the real weapon to me.
Last Friday night, got a chance to go on the road. You scrimmaged at Tri, week 1. Friday night, rivalry matchup right out of the gate. Yeah. It's, of course, more than enough just to get up and play that Civil War game against South Decatur. You're going to be doing that at home, but talked to Coach Langford about a little bit ago. Not only is it the Civil War battle, it's also now an MIFC conference matchup.
Yeah, so last week at Tri was a good experience for us. It was a great scrimmage. It was a good matchup. We came out healthy. My big takeaway from the scrimmage was I think we need to strongly consider the 10th game. If people have been football fans and they go around to these scrimmages, the quality of the football being played, because of what we do in the summer now, we're pretty polished and much more is installed than ever before. We were both ready to play a football game, but that was good. We came out healthy, learned some things. There's good and there's bad and everything. Opening up with South Decatur was a move that was made a few years ago. Weather's more consistent. There was a period of time we played in week 8. Now it's the kickoff game for the new old conference, and I'm happy the conference is back. We spent a short stint in the MEC because I felt like that's what we needed to do. As a program, it was a good move for us. We went up there the first year in that conference, went 0-4. And there was an old timer that probably wouldn't know me from Adam. He was walking across the bleachers at a JV game, and I was behind him, and he made a comment about, well, I don't know what Stern's thinking. I just wonder how he thinks about being 0-4. It made us better. It made us a ton better, helped our kids grow, not only in a tournament, but then to go win that conference. So now we're back with the meaningful games of Milan's back on the regular season. You always felt like you're going to meet each other at some point in the tournament. We've met them different weeks of the tournament, but it's I don't know how many years in a row. It's been a lot. And having that type of game in a week 3, I think is good for everybody involved. I think this conference has the ability to be very competitive. Brown County's on the uptick. Tony Bell, who spent a short time at South Decatur, is now the head coach there. He was an assistant there. His numbers are up. The excitement's up. They just voted through getting a turf field. So facility-wise, they're getting an upgrade. I still think Switzerland County is if those guys can all get lined up in the same direction, wanting the same thing, the natural resources there. Big kids, strong kids, tough kids. They got that part. So I still think they're a little bit of a sleeping giant. For us to open up with South Decatur, you really try to keep the emotions out of it. Everybody else brings that. We'll have a great crowd. Opening game of the year. It's our youth night. We also recognize our junior high football. So there'll be little kids everywhere in jerseys, which makes it fun. It's a good reminder to our guys. You remember when it was just a game, and it was about fun, and there was no pressure. And we really try to play that night to, look in those little guys' eyes, because you mean an awful lot to them, and it hasn't been that long since you were there. So.
Also, you got coming up this year your non-conference. So now we are talking about a non-conference portion of the schedule. That for you is August 29th. You got Eastern Hancock, but also a really big matchup on September 26th on the road at Linton Stockton, who's been a perennial power in Class 2A. Plus Eastern Green is still there in Franklin County to end the regular season. You guys more than maybe some others, going to be very battle-tested for the postseason coming up in October.
We hope so, and that schedule's very intentional. I mean, we had a couple choices to go different ways, but felt like that was the right thing to do. I thought that the end of our year schedule a year ago may hurt us. We ended up playing Edinburgh week 8, and then we drew them in the sectional, and that's just a tough game. It's just tough. They're teenagers and they know, and it is tough. So Franklin County is a good matchup. We know it's going to be physical. We know they're a big school, but we know the style they play, and they're tough kids. And I felt like that'll be a good. Let's go into the tournament off of that with some momentum, because they'll set the physical bar high. Linton Stockton's a great opportunity. We're traveling down there in that environment. That's how your program's going to grow. If you go out, and none of our goals have ever been we want to be undefeated. I think that's reckless and careless. So I don't really care about the outcome. I care that our kids stand toe-to-toe and compete. They are loaded. You got to win the first play, and then we'll worry about the second play when it happens. But the travel there, the atmosphere that they're going to create, and the team they have back, they're state runners-up, and not many of those guys graduated. And so I'm looking forward to it. And I want to see our kids, our competitive kids, how do they handle that atmosphere? Because we truly are going to go into that game with absolutely nothing to lose. There's no one in the state of Indiana who's going to pick us to win the game. So that's perfect. Not unlike when we played Lutheran, and our little fellas said, hey, it's our field, we'll play, and they did. And I think we learned much about ourselves that night. So we're trying to replicate that a little bit. But for the growth of the program, it's important. And I harp forever about to have success in the tournament in 1A and 2A football, you're going to travel somewhere obscure, and there is no straight road to get there. So let's practice it, and our kids are used to it. I would not anticipate the distance having any negative impact, but we'll put that in our pocket. We'll experience it. If that travel doesn't go well, we'll fix it. But there's a lot of learning opportunities. I'm looking forward to it.
There's a lot of back roads to Linton. I can definitely relate. I've made that trip before, but no matter what the road is, Coach, we're looking forward to watching the Chargers this year. Great conversation tonight. We'll go ahead and let you go. Best of luck to North Decatur as the season begins.
Thank you, Rob.
North Decatur head coach Steve Stern joining us as a part of Coach's Corner. We had some coaches unable to be here in person tonight, but we will join them by phone coming up after the commercial break. And on the docket first, South Decatur head football coach Rodney Martin. You're listening to Coach's Corner, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza on Country 103.9 WRBI.
Do you have joint pain? Joint pain doesn't have to be a part of aging. Adults with knee, hip, or shoulder pain can register now to get a free x-ray and attend a free screening and education program at Decatur County Memorial Hospital. Learn from orthopedic surgeons about non-surgical and surgical treatments that provide relief. To register, call 812-663-1279 or visit dcmh.net/events today.
More Coach's Corner with Rob LaFerry, courtesy of Ison's Family Pizza. We're on 103.9 FM, streaming on the WRBI app. And you can see the show live on Facebook or WRBI-TV.com.
It is our high school football season preview as a part of Coach's Corner, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza. We've got more local teams to roll along through here for our show. And now being joined by South Decatur head coach Rodney Martin. And, Coach, your 10th year overall inside two stints at South Decatur. But I know even for you, as one of the veteran guys around the area, still nothing more exciting than a brand new season of high school football.
Oh, and it's always exciting. It's always exciting to get started. You know, you spend so much time with the guys through the summer, and it just feels like it's never going to get here. But then, you know, Friday we had our scrimmage, and after the scrimmage, we talked to the guys and said, hey, it's for real now, starting now. And, you know, we're here, we're excited. And, you know, after almost 30 years of coaching, yes, I still get excited as heck when the season starts.
Talk about your scrimmage from Friday night, Coach. You guys took your kids down to Union County to match up with the Patriots. Scrimmages are always nice, not only to get a bunch of different guys out there, but just to try some different things. Overall, your feelings about that scrimmage on Friday?
Yes, yeah, we went over to Union County. It's always you know, it's always one of those interesting things to you always look forward to it, because you know you do get some scrimmages through the summer, and you're allowed to do some things in the summer, but you know you can't take down completely and all that. So when we get to this scrimmage, we're always looking to you know, look at what we installed through the summer and what we've been working on. How well do we put that into play now when things are truly live? And so we came away from there feeling pretty good about where we're at. But usually we take that as an opportunity to see, okay, what are we pretty solid with? What is it we need to focus on here this next week as we get ready for week one? And you know, our guys came out, they were excited. We're a young team, but they were really excited to get after it. And so, you know, we feel pretty good coming away from that, but obviously we still have a ton of things to work on.
Your team a season ago, 4-5, 3 of those wins coming as part of a win streak back in September. You mentioned that you've got a young roster, only seeing, I believe, 4 or 5 seniors on the roster, and obviously there's another glaring missing hole, Coach, and that being that Corbin Johnson no longer in uniform for you.
That, yes, we have 4 seniors on our roster. We'll be our our rosters, the biggest class is our sophomore class, and we have 6 or 7 of those guys that'll be doing a lot of starting and a lot of playing for us. So, we're going to be young once again, but yeah, the glaring hole that we have to fill. And, a kid like Corbin Johnson, you can't just replace him. At least, at a small school like ours, he's one of those kids that come along every once in a blue moon, and so when, for 3 years now, we were able to kind of base everything we did around him. And so, it's one of those things where, he's moved on. He's at Georgetown College now. And, but yeah, we've got to figure out a way how to put everything on the shoulders of more people instead of just relying on him.
Again, talking with South Decatur head coach Rodney Martin as a part of a coach's corner. You mentioned Corbin kind of being one of those once in a blue moon type of kids, especially when you look at the stats that he put together last year, because not only does he lead you in rushing, he leads you in touchdowns, he leads you in receiving yards. He's got 63 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 3 interceptions. You're right. That's going to have to be placed on more bodies this year. And this might be a good year for that opportunity for several kids to come up and fill those spots because the opportunity is going to be there for them.
Oh, it most definitely is. And, he did a tremendous job last year. We started 3 freshmen on the offensive line last year, and he still put those numbers up rushing. But to see what he did last year with those guys and to mentor the linemen and all of his teammates speaks volumes for the type of kid that he was, or is, I should say. And he helped bring them along. We've got Emmett McFarland and Kagan Wren and Jaden Jackson Ray, 3 running backs who, carried the ball a little bit last year. But he mentored those guys all season last year. And so now we've kind of got a 3-headed backfield there that we'll be able to divvy up those carries for. And but we've got a lot of guys who we're going to have to rely on, and it's a good thing. Most of them are young, like I said, sophomores. We got a lot of sophomores and juniors that'll be playing for us, so it's their opportunity to step up for sure.
Taking a look at your offense this year, obviously, with Corbin in that backfield, there's not a lot of slinging the football around in terms of passing from a year ago. But I'm glad that you mentioned Jaden Jackson Ray, because he does come back. He's got some experience for you. And then kind of flipping gears and talking about your defense a little bit, Jackson Ray's a big-time returner for you, but it seems like defensively especially, maybe a little bit more experience and maybe a chance for that group to really shine in 2025.
Oh, most definitely. We return, other than Corbin and Toby Bishop, we return 9 of our 11 starters on defense. Jaden Jackson Ray being our top returner for sure. I do believe he even led our team in tackles last year as a sophomore. But yeah, he's our defensive leader, our defensive captain, a team captain. We're going to rely on him. He's a tremendous linebacker. But yeah, we have a lot of returners coming back, and definitely defense, I think, is going to be our strong point here early on in the season. Offensively, we're I wouldn't say we're behind, but offensively we're a little behind where we are defensively, just because we've got a new quarterback again this year. We're just trying to figure out what our identity is going to be at this point, because like you said, we've had Corbin the last 3 years, and we knew we could base our offense around that one kid, and we did to an extent. But this year, like I said, we got a new quarterback. We've got some new starters on offense. So we're a little behind, I would say, where we are defensively. But we'll come around.
You mentioned having to find an identity with this team, and most anyone who knows anything about coaching, whether it's football or basketball, volleyball, whatever the sport may be, that's not a 1 week thing. This is going to take some time. I would be probably safe to say that for you guys, your best football will be coming up in those later weeks once you guys have been able to find that identity.
Oh, I think so. And, we returned several of our, we basically returned our entire starting offensive. 4 of the 5 we returned. So, what we tried to accomplish last year being a run-heavy offense, we've got a lot of guys that's got some experience there. But, we've got, like I said, the 3 running backs and the new quarterback. So, our main goal is to be able to run the football, of course. But it's going to take a little time. And, yeah, I would expect us to finally start seeing that identity that we're wanting. Probably later on, like you mentioned back, about midway through the season, we hope that we've solidified who we are going to be and what we're going to be able to do this season.
First ball game this Friday night. You'll be on the road, although it's a very quick road trip for you guys because you guys are at North Decatur for the Civil War game. Obviously, there's enough reason to be hyped up because it is the Civil War game, but also back this year, this is now a conference game for you guys as the Mid-Indiana Conference has returned and already talked to a couple coaches about it, but back to playing some conference football against some familiar opponents.
It is, and that is a great thing. It's nice to be back in. It's nice for the Mid-Indiana Football Conference to reestablish itself. It gives our players something now more, because we've been independent the last, I think it's been 4 or 5 years. Is what it's been since the conference had kind of taken a hiatus. And being an independent, you lose out on that opportunity to play for a conference championship. You lose out on those opportunities for kids to be all conference football players. And so, yeah, it's nice. We play all the schools anyway. With Brown County joining our conference now too, they come on board. So we've picked them up. But yeah, familiar foe this Friday, short road trip. And, on top of that, it is a conference game right off the bat.
All right, well, Coach, for Cougar fans out there, they'll be able to see you guys at home on August 29th against Shenandoah. But again, first ball game this season on Friday night at North Decatur. Coach, good talking with you. Best of luck to you in South Decatur this season.
I appreciate you having us. Thank you very much.
Coach's Corner rolls right along after this time out, and we'll be joined with more right after this on Country 103.9 WRBI.
We don't sell you cars, we help you buy them.
Fleetwood Chevrolet at 950 North Michigan Avenue in Greensburg invites you to visit them. They're here to help you with your next new or pre-owned vehicle purchase, as well as all your service and parts needs. They're the home of Greensburg's only drive-in service lane and free oil changes for life with the purchase of a new vehicle. Give them an opportunity to earn your business at Fleetwood Chevrolet.
We don't sell you cars, we help you buy them.
It's Coach's Corner with Rob LaFerry, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza. Listen on 103.9 FM and the WRBI app, and watch on our Facebook page or at WRBI-TV.com.
And welcome back to Coach's Corner, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza. Hard to believe the high school football season is already here as we get set for week number 1 this week. And now being joined here for the show by a guy who has been around our listening area as a head coach now for 12 years overall. But this is now his 8th season at Franklin County. That is head coach Wes Gilman. And, Coach, it seems like the off seasons just get quicker and quicker each and every year. But I'm sure for you now, with this upcoming 8th season, this past off season for you, a lot of time to assess things from a year ago and plan for 2025.
Yeah, it seems like summer gets smaller every year. Well, maybe it's the older I get. Heck, I don't know. But, yeah, so last year we had a talented group very easily. I've talked to a number of media people, and this always comes up, and, very easily could have been us in Batesville's spot. We did beat Batesville in the regular season and then really did not play well in that sectional game against them. They end up going on a run all the way to semi-state and ran into a really good Heritage Hills team. But last year's gone. It's up to us now to replace a really good senior class, 6 of which are just very difficult to replace. There's literally 6 of those kids. I don't know if you can replace them, but the good news is we have a good junior class behind them. Last year, they're a year older now, and it's time for them to step up and make their own mark. And we'll have some younger guys fill in with that group as well. So, time to turn the page, and we've been doing that since winter, early spring, talking about this year what they can accomplish. It's going to be player leadership is the big thing for this group. If our senior class can be leaders on the football field and not just our football coaches be the leaders, if they can take the reins and lead this group, we'll be successful this year.
For you guys, a year ago, you guys were 7-4, most wins in your tenure at Franklin County. You mentioned the heartbreaker against Batesville in the sectional semifinals, but you guys had a 5-game win streak prior to that. And you're right, you had such a great senior group from a year ago. Obviously, Quinn Gilman being in there, Braylon in at wide receiver, several defensively. Those are hard shoes to fill, but I do like that you've got a returning group that saw success last season. They know what winning football is going to look like.
Yeah, and they've been there and done that, right? So they know what it takes. It's just, in high school football, every team is different. And sometimes, I want to point to Lawrenceburg. They had a really good senior class came through. I can't remember how long ago. It might have been 4 or 5 years ago. Really good, strong senior class. Could never get out of the regional. And then I think a year later, that team was in the state finals. And a big part of that was because the younger groups were used to winning. So you just never know. Every team is different. The chemistry, the makeup, how they get along, how they gel. And you really, even as a coach, you can kind of see during the summer, but you really don't know until the season starts. Hey, how's this going to go? Realistically, you probably don't even know who you are until about week 3 or 4, sometimes even week 5. So, Quinn, very difficult to replace. We're not going to have a Quinn Gilman this year. We're not even going to have a Braylon Crudup, Jack Seals, Caden Kerr, Jack Deerkeesing, Lane Westerman. Those 6 guys, just very difficult to replace, but we are going to have a Wyatt Bowling who does things really well at quarterback. In a lot of ways is, faster and quicker than Quinn. Doesn't throw the ball like Quinn, probably doesn't have the leadership skills that Quinn does, but he does things well, and we'll use those tools. Carter Dozier is one of the best receivers in the area, in the tri-state. Mason Wee has taken bounds and leaps. His quickness and his vision, his speed right now, I would put him up there with some of the best running backs in the tri-state. So, and then our offensive line, 4 of the 5 guys are back. They were starters last year. The only one that's not is our 300-pound athletic right guard, Bryce Lee. The other 4 all started last year. So, we have pieces. It's not like, the cupboard's bare. It's just a matter of leadership. Can these guys lead like last year's group did? Can they prepare like last year's group did? And if they can do that, we'll be successful this year.
Talking with Franklin County head coach Wes Gilman as a part of Coach's Corner. You mentioned Carter Dozier for you offensively, Mason Wee in there as well. Those 2 combined put up, 15 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards, whether it be receiving or rushing last year. O-line is extremely important when you got those guys and building them up to a more important role, because if your O-line does their job, it makes those 2 look awfully good.
Absolutely, and vice versa. You can have the best skilled players in the world. If you don't have an O-line, you're not going to get very far. And then you can have some mediocre skilled guys. If you have an O-line, you can really do something. So, it's very exciting that we have those 5 guys up front. Over the summer, we had some scrimmages, and, you talk to other coaches and other people in the community, and they're like, wow, those guys are dominant. I mean, they really take over a game, and they get pushed, and it's true. But they got to want to do it. There's going to be times this year, though, when things get difficult. Are we going to have a leader step up and say, hey, let's turn this around? Things like that, little things that matter. Those are big things in high school football. So, like I said, the cupboard's not bare. So we have a pretty decent group coming back. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And there's other kids that are going to step up. Blake Stevenson has really turned into a man. He's 6'2", 6'3", 215, 220 pounds now. He plays tight end, outside backer for us. He's also a senior. Keegan Clark's another senior. Caden Perleyberg, a junior, who's going to make some plays for us. There's a variety of kids. Once we find our part and our role, I'm really excited about it.
Kind of going back and looking through just some statistical stuff, getting ready for the show. I do think you have to like a lot about what's coming back for your defense, because you do got 3 guys who had over 50 tackles apiece last year, plus a couple guys who know how to get back to the quarterback too.
Yeah, so some defensive line, Evan Flasspor, I'm really excited about him at the end, which he did not play defense much at all last year, but he's got a new guy starting offensive tackle, but he's also going to play DN. I'm really looking forward to watching him. Elijah Newmeister has the ability to have a big year. Some linebackers, some new linebackers, Brady Bruneman, Parker Gilman, Nate Shalik, and then our secondary, Blake Stevenson, also a linebacker. I mentioned him already, but our secondary probably has the most experience. You're looking at Dozier, Bowling, Wee, and Perleyberg. Those 4 I'll put up against anybody, just athletically, the way they can play football, their football IQ. Our defense should be solid too. Big thing for us also, and this is probably true for every small school, we have to stay healthy. The drop off from our 1s to our 2s is a pretty big drop. So that's something that we struggled with last year. We lost Carter Dozier week 6. We lost Jack Deerkeesing week 9. So those nagging injuries, those not even nagging injuries, the injuries that, are season ending, those are crucial. So you got to have a little bit of luck as well. So we got to have some luck in the injury department. And then I like who we are as a team.
8th year, we already mentioned coming into this year, Franklin County, 3 winning seasons in the last 5 years. To me, that speaks volumes about the program just continuing to build. And it's been a football program that certainly had plenty of tradition. But when you do play a competitive non-conference, when you're playing in the EIAC gauntlet each and every year, it just seems like some culture is starting, I guess, to come back to Franklin County. And you guys are really starting to put things together pretty consistently.
Yeah, that's brought up quite a bit. A lot of people my age and older, and even some younger, remember the 90s. From 1989 to 1999, Franklin County football was known statewide. There was very few years within that decade where Franklin County didn't go into the year thinking, hey, we have a chance of winning the state championship, and it wasn't unheard. That was the reality. You were constantly ranked, 3rd, 4th. Sometimes second, whatever the case might be. So, those are people that went through there. The kids, the guys that came back had kids, and that goes all the way back to our youth program. Some of the parents that have kids now that are coaching 1st graders, 2nd graders, 3rd graders, they remember that feeling. They remember what that felt like to be a part of Franklin County football when it was successful, and obviously they instill that into their kids. So there's not a whole lot I have to do for that. I just have to kind of, just keep watering the culture in terms of going down to the youth. I'm down there all the time because I got a 5th grader, and I see it. Coaches, parents are excited. Some of our kids, though, they have not seen a sectional since they've been alive. They have not seen a football sectional championship since they've been alive. It's been 1998. It's crazy to think that, but you're right, man. The culture is here. People love football in this area. It would be, I would love it to be able to bring a sectional to this community. They would absolutely love it.
The fan base got a chance to see you guys play a scrimmage against Connorsville last Friday. You'll actually see them in the regular season on the road on August 29th. But the real thing for you guys is this Friday night, making the road trip to Newcastle. And this has been a kind of a typical start for you guys to play that non-conference game, then get ready for the EIAC.
Yeah, it's all about Newcastle right now. You're right. We have Connorsville week 2. I wasn't extremely happy with the way we came out against Connorsville in the scrimmage. partially my fault. I think I didn't really prepare them as, hey, this is a very important thing here. We treated it as a practice. Our ones got, a couple series, and then we pulled them, and we weren't dominant like we should have been. We'll make that up week 2. But it's all about Newcastle. Newcastle's a good team, man. I watched film on them pretty much all day yesterday. They are fast. They're long, athletic. They got a quarterback that can sling it. I thought they were a decent team last year, and they were all juniors, so it's going to be a challenge. Just from looking at the film, probably one of the 3 best teams we'll play this year. So week 1, man, it's going to hit us hard. We got to drive up there. So we got to be ready. If we come out flat like we did in the scrimmage against Connersville, Newcastle beats us. There's no doubt. So it's going to be a grind week 1 for sure.
All right, Coach, we will go ahead and let you go. I know this will not be the only time that we speak this year, but best of luck, especially here in week 1 at Newcastle, and best of luck to the Wildcats for 2025.
Hey, I appreciate it. Anytime, man.
Rob LaFerry with Franklin County head coach Wes Gilman. We will come back with more Coach's Corner delivered by Ison's Family Pizza on Country 103.9 WRBI.
When looking for the highest standard of HVAC service and care, turn to Hurt and Elko, your local Lennox Premier dealer. Hurt and Elko and their Premier dealer status means you are certain to be working with a company who has the highest level of training, professionalism, and customer satisfaction. For a limited time, they're offering up to $1,900 in rebates on a brand new Lennox system or finance with low monthly payments. Call Hurt and Elko today at 812-934-4646 or visit them online at hurt-elko.com to learn more. Conditions apply. See dealer for details.
Back to more Coach's Corner with Rob LaFerry, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza on 103.9 FM. Streaming audio on the WRBI app and with video on our Facebook page and at WRBI-TV.com.
And welcome back to Coach's Corner as we get set for the high school football season here this week. And we continue to roll on with our show and joined by a guy whose name you may have heard of before, but this will be his first year inside our listening area. That is Greensburg head coach Isaac Sliger. And Coach, first year here at Greensburg. First off, congratulations on getting the position here with the Pirates, and just talk about your experience being a Pirate so far here in the offseason.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, but no, like I said, we were able to take over there mid to late December, right before Christmas break started. We've come a very long way over the course of the last 8 months. Still got a ways to go as a program, and as everyone understands, it takes time to rebuild a program. But it's been a situation where we've got a group of kids that they want to be able to prove things to go to the right direction, and I think they've shown that. I think for us, it's again just trying to focus in on the finite details, and being able to stay focused on that. A lot of people, don't understand how hard it is to be able to change a program and rebuild one from the ground up, especially when you're asking 15 to 18-year-olds to do that, with a lot of outside noise. And, I think kind of summarizing that, it's a day-by-day decision where, you just got to try to stack days together to get better each and every day. But a lot of that pairs back to, though, having a support system. And, I think from day one, since, we were able to get down here and put together our staff, first off, our administration has been phenomenal. My wife, my kids, my family, we've been very, very graciously supported. And I can't stress that enough, just in regards to what they've been willing to do to help, what they've offered just to be able to assist, whether that's, again, just from a personal family standpoint, as far as the transition piece went, whether that's from, an actual operations standpoint day to day. So that part has been phenomenal. And I can't stress that enough. Obviously from a player standpoint, we've had a lot of buy-in so far. Last year we ended the year program wise right around 30 kids. Right now we're right around the 50 mark as we venture into week 1. So, that piece has been phenomenal, being able to get kids back out that, hadn't been playing in a little while. And, even some guys that hadn't played before that, kind of believed in the process of what we presented at the table. And, so you've got that piece. And then obviously from a parent standpoint, everything still runs through that as well. Trying to get everything on board to understand that it takes a village, whether it be, again, an administrative piece, whether it be from a players and students piece at the school, and then obviously from the parents and then community standpoint. I feel like everyone's been very responsive in a positive way with what we've done so far. And like I said, I think everybody's on the same page, just of the understanding that it takes time to rebuild this the right way. There's some things that you're able to learn along the way that you may be able to expedite the process, but that doesn't mean that you're able to take shortcuts at the same time. The roadmap still is the roadmap. But at the end of the day, I think we've had phenomenal support in a lot of areas.
Obviously, your name familiar because if anyone around our area follows football, especially the EIAC, you've been at Rushville for the last 4 seasons. You've been through this process before. It was a rebuilding project with the Lions. You guys were 6-4 a year ago. I like what you brought up about coming to Greensburg, that, this is not going to be an overnight project. Miraculously, things are not going to be shaped up the way that maybe the everyday fan would want them to shape up as, but you've got this experience. So talk a little bit about what your expectations are in year one at Greensburg, because sometimes, because a new coach is implementing a new system, year one always seems to be the hardest at a new football program.
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's just learning how to do things the right way. And that's not just a football thing. That's how we carry ourselves daily with everything, whether that's an off the field product, whether that is, in the classroom, whether that's on the field, and just knowing how we prepare for things. And, so obviously there's the schematic system that plays into effect behind it, which, a little bit different in regards to, what has been the case. The last couple of years, they've been more of a zone scheme team. We're not really a zone scheme team. We predominantly ride with gap schemes. And a lot of that goes back to, I feel like, God gave us angles for a reason, and let's use them. So, that piece obviously is one factor out of it. But, obviously on the other is, we've got a lot of bad habits that we've got to break, from a mental standpoint and a physical standpoint. And a lot of that goes back to the culture side of things, and when we talk about culture, it's the day-to-day actions of, what we choose to allow and, what we choose to make sure we negate. That is probably the biggest piece behind all of it, because, again, for a period of time, it was one way in regards to how they were instructed to do things. And, I'm somebody that, always wants to make sure to preface, like, I don't hone in on any of that stuff, because at the end of the day, what I do is going to be different from another guy that walks into the room. And that's perfectly okay. Philosophy-wise changes from person to person. But as far as we're concerned, we're now going to operate on what we believe in and what we do. And that takes time to change, obviously from the understanding of, how we break a huddle, how we sprint to the line of scrimmage, how we operate play to play, from an overall attitude standpoint, having each other's backs, when things get hard, how do we respond? You could throw out several scenarios, obviously, and you're never going to be able to replicate it all. But trying to force kids into hard situations, that way they can develop a little bit of resiliency and perseverance. I think that's more than anything the end goal for year one, and then being able to compete for one another. It's got to be a scenario where, at the end of the day, something is going to go wrong. That's okay. That things go wrong plenty of times on a Friday night. Like, that is normal, whether you're winning games, whether you're losing games, it does not matter. In a state championship game, you are going to see things go wrong for a team. The difference is, how do championship teams respond in those situations? And that's what we've got to build to. We've got to be able to brush it off and make it more of a boxing match and, fight through the punches and come out on top at the end. That, again, takes time to be able to understand, because you've got to learn how to win games. You've got to be able to learn how to get through situations. That, more than anything, is going to be our piece that we've got to kind of, learn along the way. But obviously, the sooner you learn it and the more that you're able to kind of adapt off of it, you're able to kind of, again, trudge along a little bit further in that process.
Talking with Greensburg head coach Isaac Sliger. Greensburg last season 1-10, 20-game losing streak before a sectional win, 35-8 over Purdue Poly Inglewood. Coach, you mentioned that the roster has increased for you since you took over back in December, and the good thing is, last year, this was a very young Pirate team. You said there's a lot of familiar faces back. There's some new faces back. That's got to be promising for you to see that increase and to see the interest begin to build up inside your first season in Greensburg.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, when you kind of look at it, I think we're still a relatively young team, even at that. We're going to end up playing a good chunk of sophomores, and then a good chunk of juniors too out of it. Senior wise, though, we've got some experience from guys. Austin Cruz, would be a three-year starter for us. Two-way starter at that, at both linebacker and running back. Carson Kilgore's another that, you're going to see a position change out of that, we kind of have in that joker role of being able to play both a receiver at times and then obviously being able to take handoffs in the backfield as one of our running backs. Those two should be able to be kind of a thunder lightning approach for us, out of the backs. And, up front, we've got a lot of older guys that, again, have some experience. Again, you look at, Ashton Winchester is going to be a junior. You look at Jeremiah Alexander is going to be a senior. Austin Adams is going to be a senior. And then, we've got a couple other guys that are first-year starters out of it, too, with Logan Ortman, as one of our tackles. And then, one of our new guys as well, Cam Parkinson, is a senior who came back out. We've got a lot of experience, I think, in the trenches as far as age-wise goes. I think, again, when you start looking at our skill positions, that's where we're relatively young at, outside of, obviously Kilgore and Cruz. Our back end defensively is really a lot of juniors, and even from an offensive standpoint, Tyler Williams would be another senior that, from a receiver standpoint, but, we're looking at Ethan Bishop, who's going to be a junior. You're looking at even a little bit of Bentley Sagasser, who is a freshman, is going to get a little bit of playing time. Our tight end group with Max Grimes, who's a sophomore, and Jai Jackson's a freshman. We're kind of a pretty good blend of old and young. But it's one of those things that really, I think the biggest piece off of it's our quarterback spot. Obviously the last couple of years, they've had Bryson Aplanup, who's no longer with us, but Levi Muckerhide's kind of taking the reins. He's done a phenomenal job. He's going to be a sophomore for us, but it's one of those that, he's had to learn a whole system in about 6 to 8 months. And we ask a lot out of our quarterback in regards to being able to put us in good situations and get us out of bad ones. A lot more than probably what some do at that position, especially at that age. But man, he's a hard worker. He's put on 30 pounds this off season. He's up to about 190. And, he's somebody that's continuing to improve day in, day out and starting to kind of get into that rhythm a little bit. But it's kind of a blend. And then obviously, like I said, we've got a really good group of young kids that I think we'll be able to build with also long term. There is that freshman and even some other sophomore pieces out of it.
You got a chance to scrimmage on Friday night against Rushville. The real thing happens this week. You've got a home ball game coming up on Friday night against Shelbyville. You followed up with a home game against Greenfield Central on the 29th. You've got to love this schedule as a first-year head coach here at Greensburg because you've only got 3 road ball games. You've got a lot of home flavor on that schedule this year.
We do. Our schedule is a bear. I will admit that as well. We see a lot of quality opponents. Obviously Shelbyville being a 4A program, obviously, Greenfield Central is going to be one that has a really good opportunity to run and win their sectional and be able to make a deep run this year into the playoffs. Obviously East Central, being what they are historically year in, year out. And then obviously you look at our conference, people don't always understand the type of football that EIAC is. It's a very much a physical roundabout every single week. And, that's one of the things that, again, we're going to build this into, we're going to do a better job with. But, obviously, yes, the home standpoint helps a lot. Last night at our scrimmage, I thought we put it on a solid job. We've improved a lot, like what I've said since last year. And that's kind of the next focal point for us is, we've got to now start moving into the station where, yes, we're better than where we were a year ago. But that's also not the standard of what we've got to get to. Standard of what we've got to get to, is kind of something that was modeled, where I was last year over the course of 4 years, and how we continue to hit that trajectory and then kind of get through the ceiling at another level. That, like we've said, is going to take time, but, obviously this week, like what you said, is the real thing. And, just gotta have a good week of preparation and, just focus on us and be able to kind of do what we do and go execute.
All right, Coach. Well, I'm sure this will not be the first time that we get a chance to converse this fall, but congratulations once again on accepting the position. All the best for the Greensburg Pirates this year, and best of luck this Friday night against Shelbyville.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Greensburg head coach Isaac Sliger joining us as a part of Coach's Corner, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza. We'll step aside and take a timeout on Country 103.9 WRBI.
It's back. Our delicious chicken bruschetta pizza is back. Cecil Ison from Ison's Family Pizza in downtown Batesville. The savory pizza with white garlic sauce, seasoned chicken, mozzarella provolone cheese, tomatoes, and fresh basil, all on our fresh in-house made dough. Come try this or any of Batesville's best pizza at 117 East George Street, IsonsFamilyPizza.com, 812-933-0333. Ison's Family Pizza's famous chicken bruschetta pizza is back.
Coach's Corner with Rob LaFerry continues. Watch us live on WRBI-TV.com or on our Facebook page. And hear us live on the WRBI app and 103.9 FM. WRBI.
Back one final time on Coach's Corner, delivered by Ison's Family Pizza as we wrap up on a very successful season premiere. A big thank you to all of our high school coaches for their time tonight, and certainly we do wish all of them the best of luck inside week one of the high school football season and beyond. Of course, a big thank you as well to Ison's Family Pizza for allowing us to serve up to you another year of the premier sports show in southeastern Indiana. We will have two high school football games for you this Friday night on air and online. You can check out a big-time EIAC showdown as East Central visits rival Lawrenceburg, and online is where you will find coverage of Batesville playing host to Triton Central. Both games will have pregame times of 6:40 with kickoff scheduled for 7 o'clock. On behalf of our entire WRBI crew on hand tonight, alongside our gridiron coaches and the fantastic folks at Ison's, this is Rob LaFerry saying so long, and we'll huddle up together again next week at 6 o'clock for Coach's Corner right here on Country 103.9 WRBI.
Listen Monday nights at 6 for Coach's Corner with Rob LaFerry, live from Ison's Family Pizza. Come check out the show in person or listen on 103.9 FM or the WRBI app. And now you can also watch the show happen live at WRBI-TV.com or on our Facebook page. From southeastern Indiana's local sports voice, WRBI Batesville Green.